Hey pals, welcome back. I've done a fair bit of travel this year, and a big reason for that is because I've started to get invited to a lot of brand events. You never really know what to expect on those trips, so I usually end up taking a number of my larger devices to make sure I've covered all bases. It's already that time of year when tech brands announce all of their new products, which is typically when I start to reflect on what's working well for me and which devices are maybe due for an upgrade. So I figured I'd share that process and show you what's currently inside my tech bag for 2025. I'd like to give a quick thanks to Panasonic, who have sponsored this video. As always, I've left links to everything down in the description. Let's do this. Alright, so in last year's tech bag video, I spoke highly of the TI EDC backpack from Big Idea Design. Amazing bag that I genuinely love using, but with a combined capacity of 35 litres when you add this front section, it weighs an absolute ton when fully packed and can feel quite cumbersome when you're wearing it for extended periods. With this in mind, I wanted to trim everything down a bit this year. There's so much choice that it's almost impossible to pick just one bag, but after narrowing down my needs, I landed on the 20-litre hybrid backpack from Stubble & Co. I've seen these guys popping up on my Instagram feed a lot this year, and I'm a sucker for good branding, so I figured I'd give them a go. My decision was mostly based on the following criteria: clean, aesthetic design, a separate section to quickly get my laptop out when needed, and a main compartment that fully opens so I can easily access everything else without any friction. So far, I've been pretty happy with the hybrid backpack. I was a bit worried that the smaller capacity wouldn't be enough space for me, but it's actually encouraged me to be a bit more intentional about what I take on my trips, whilst also being much easier to carry. So if I open this up, you'll see that there isn't an organization tray like I had in the TI EDC backpack. To stop everything from rolling around and bashing into each other, I've added this camera cube from Earth, which helps to protect some of my more expensive devices. I tried this along with some other options from Peak Design and Gomatic, but this had a better shape and fit for the more compact hybrid backpack, and I like this quite solid. I just feel a bit more confident about carrying expensive camera gear inside this, you know? If we look inside, you'll see my camera choices. As I mentioned at the start of the video, the majority of my travel this year has been for various tech events and product launches, so filming gear is often a pretty big part of my tech carry. I've been using the Sony A7 IV for basically everything over the last few years, but it's a pretty hefty setup, especially when using it with a camera cage and this 28-70 f2 lens. I've wanted to get a second camera for a while now, but to help trim down my tech bag, I decided to pick up the A7 II, which uses the exact same sensor as this, but housed within a much smaller body. It obviously has a few less features, but the actual footage you get out of these two cameras is basically identical, so which one I choose effectively just comes down to my specific needs on the day. I typically use it with my 16-35, which sure, I probably could have gone for something a bit more compact, but this combo offers a really versatile setup, and that 33 megapixel sensor means I can use crop mode to punch in a bit without any loss in quality, giving me a super flexible focal range. To be honest, I don't have any complaints about this camera. The grip is a bit small for my hands, which is why I'm using this base plate for a bit more comfort, but that's honestly the only thing I can really moan about. And I actually think it looks quite nice with this attached, so yeah, very happy with the setup. The other camera I usually take with me is the DJI Osmo Pocket 3. I won't lie, I slept on this for way too long, but it absolutely lives up to the hype. It's just an incredible device for capturing high quality content. The quality of footage you can get using this camera is genuinely mind-blowing, and shooting in a log profile means you actually have a bit of flexibility to grade this footage too, which is always nice to have. Obviously this product has been out for a while now, so the criticisms I do have are pretty well known by this point. For example, vertical mode crops in rather than just rotating the gimbal, which feels like it should be an easy thing to fix over a software update, but it never came, so I have to assume this will be a key feature on the next version of this camera. So yeah, it is what it is. Also, it would be reassuring to have some level of water resistance. I'm not saying I want to use this like an action camera or anything, but this was my go-to setup when I went to Iceland earlier this year. And there were a couple of times where I felt like I was really pushing it to its limits, so having some sort of IP rating would definitely be appreciated. I'm using the DJI Mic Mini for both of these cameras actually. The transmitter can connect directly to the Osmo Pocket 3, which is super handy, but I use the receiver with the A7C2 if I ever need to record myself speaking, which is honestly such an easy and lightweight solution for capturing audio. The good thing about this setup is it's so discreet, I feel really comfortable just talking to camera, even amongst all these people. So yeah, no, it's just a really nice little combination piece. Okay, up next is this. Here's something you probably didn't know about me. I have a form of alopecia that mostly affects my facial hair. This is actually part of the reason why I've been rocking the mustache this year, because it helps to keep attention away from my patchy beard. So I was super excited when Panasonic reached out to sponsor this video. They sent out the Panasonic Palm Razor for me to try, and I'm actually really impressed with this device. I have quite a complex facial hair routine when I'm at home, which involves various shaving tools and razors, but when I'm traveling, I prefer to keep things as compact and streamlined as possible. The Palm Razor's portability makes it the perfect travel companion, offering a small but equally as mighty tool that's a must-have for trips away. It comes in two colors. There's a simple black version, which is my preference, but there's also white, which is made from an eco-friendly material called Nagori, which gives it this nice marble sort of look. So if we take a closer look at the shaving head, you'll see that it features these multi-directional blades made with the same technology used in crafting Japanese swords, making them extremely sharp for close shaving, yet still gentle on skin. If we take this piece off, you get a better look at the high-performance motor, which powers the blades for a fast and efficient shave. I have pretty thick facial hair. I've always said that I'm follically endowed, but I've had no issues using the Panasonic palm razor. There's a built-in sensor to ensure the torque ramps up for any thicker hairs when needed, and I haven't experienced any snagging or irritation. The palm razor's form factor suggests that it might not be particularly ergonomic, but it does feel surprisingly nice in the hand and allows for pretty good dexterity when in use. It's also waterproof, meaning it can be easily cleaned by just running it under the tap for a few seconds, and also has a built-in battery, which I'm happy to report uses a standard USB-C port to charge, rather than an annoying proprietary cable, which is pretty common on razors for some reason. The bottom line is, it's a must-have for any tech bag. Its compact size, minimal design, and powerful motor makes it a perfect travel companion, so it's safe to say it'll be coming with me on all my future trips. I don't use an iPad very often, but I've found it to be a much more enjoyable option for watching content when traveling compared to my phone. It's nice having the larger screen, and I can also use it for a bit of content planning or replying to emails if I'm feeling particularly productive. I have the original 11-inch iPad Pro here, which is definitely getting on a bit, but still more than enough for what I use it for. However, the real star of the show is this dynamic folio case from Moft. Obviously, this helps to protect the display from getting scratched, but it also massively improves the experience when using my iPad on the go. The dynamic folio case has an origami-inspired design, which elevates your tablet by folding into a variety of heights and angles, giving you a wide range of different viewing modes depending on what you're using it for. I mostly just use it in theatre mode for a more comfortable experience when watching Netflix or YouTube on public transport, but occasionally I like to mount it on my leg like this if there isn't enough room on the table, for example. If you're someone who uses an iPad for design work, then you might appreciate the creation mode, which gives you a more ergonomic angle when using an Apple Pencil. There's also a dual screen mode, which I guess could be useful for students taking notes or something. Ultimately, the iPad just isn't the most travel-friendly device out of the box, so third-party accessories are pretty much necessary if you don't want to be holding it the entire time. Even though this case is super thin, the built-in magnets are nice and strong, and the overall quality of materials is excellent. Moft has done a really nice job with this. I've said this in previous videos, but I prefer using earbuds for my day-to-day listening. However, I do think that the comfort and superior ANC that headphones offer make them a better overall choice for travel. I've reviewed a lot of headphones at this point, so I don't really get that excited about iterative upgrades like you see from the likes of Apple or Sony. However, I definitely raised my eyebrows when Nothing announced they'd be entering the headphones market with these. Headphone 1 are particularly interesting to me because instead of producing the best sounding headphones, Nothing have instead focused on designing something that looks and feels completely unique, and I actually really rate it. I'd probably give these like a 7.5 out of 10 across the board for things like audio quality, comfort, ANC, but these just speak to me for their design and features. I actually don't mind touch controls too much, but I have to admit, I've really enjoyed the physical buttons, which provide a very tactile experience. The volume roller in particular is really pleasant and just feels right when you use it. Obviously, design is subjective, but if you don't like these, there's plenty of other options out there for you. Personally, I love them, and I have to give Nothing credit for trying something new. They're not perfect. The carrying case is quite similar to what Sonos did for their headphones, which was also a bit crap, but my biggest complaint is actually the ear cups. They're not the most comfortable, and I found they get a bit clammy if you're wearing them for a while, but the main issue I have is that they aren't detachable, so you can't replace them when they inevitably start to break down after a few years. That being said, the other thing worth mentioning is the price. They were pretty competitive at launch, but I've noticed they're already going on sale quite often, so you can get these for a bit of a steal, which does make them slightly easier to recommend. It only took 8 years, but this is finally the video where I can say there's a new Nintendo Switch. I'm not even joking when I say I have thousands of hours playtime on the original console, so this comes with me on basically every trip. The Switch 2 takes everything that made the first model great, but makes it even better. There's a bigger and brighter screen, massively upgraded internals, more comfortable controllers that use magnets to snap on now. It's truly a huge upgrade, and Nintendo smashed it, to be fair. Battery life still isn't amazing, and I wish the dock was a bit more travel friendly, but this is definitely going to be one of my tech highlights for 2025. To be honest, I'm pretty much just waiting for the new Pokemon game to come out, and I haven't really played this as much as I would have liked to yet. So please let me know in the comments if you have any recommendation for Switch games that I should maybe check out in the meantime. I can't believe I'm actually saying this, but my 14-inch MacBook Pro from 2021 is still going strong, and has once again managed to make it into my tech bag. I have a feeling it's getting pretty close to retirement, but it all depends on what Apple comes out with during the next event, so who knows. There's no major issues yet, but I have noticed it's getting a bit slow when editing longer videos, so I'd like to replace this with something that can keep up with my creative workflow. In the meantime, this is very much still my main work machine. I really don't want to talk about it anymore though, because I genuinely think it's featured in about 7 different videos, but yeah, fair play. Best value device I've ever bought, what an absolute trooper. You might have also spotted this thing on the back. So it's called HoldX, and it's a magnetic SSD mount. It's one of those small quality of life improvements that you don't really appreciate until you use one, and then you'll never go back. It's super simple, literally just a stick-on magnet that you attach to your laptop, and it just means you won't accidentally pull your SSD out halfway through your project. Wait, hang on a minute, we gotta talk about something. I just happen to have my YouTube analytics up here, and it told me that almost 98% of you aren't subscribed yet. Not gonna lie, guys, that's pretty high. Let's maybe fix that. Hey, there we go. Thanks, pal. All right, let's do some quick fire miscellaneous items. These are some of the products I'll take with me depending on the nature of the trip and whether I have room for them. Up first, we have AirTags. Goes without saying, but anything that carries valuable tech products needs one of these inside. These first came out like 4 years ago, and I definitely think they're due an upgrade soon. They have a bit of an awkward shape, and changing the battery is a bit annoying, so it'd be nice if Apple dropped a new version of these soon. This weird looking thing is actually for storing my SD cards. It's got 4 slots each for both micro and full-size SD cards, along with some extra storage for nano SIM cards, which I haven't personally used, but might be helpful in some parts of the world. I also like that it has a built-in reader, which connects via USB-C, and it's just a fun bit of kit to play with. I'm not going to say what it reminds me of, but I'm sure you can use your imagination. My approach to charging is pretty much the same as last year. I'll use a power bank for topping up my devices on the go, along with a charging station for when I have access to a wall socket. I've recently upgraded to this 25,000 mAh power bank from Anker, which features your standard ports, but also has a couple of built-in USB-C cables, which is just a bit cleaner than having to cram a few of them into a random side pocket. There's also a screen which gives you some nice information about how much power you're using and the remaining battery health, which feels weirdly premium for a device like this. The only thing I can think of that would make this charger better is if they somehow added an Apple Watch charger, which I'm pretty sure I've seen on other power banks, but honestly, it's already pretty great. I'll also take this Anker 3-in-1 station for overnight charging my everyday carry. There's a spot for my phone, AirPods, and watch, and I like that it folds flat, which means it can stow away nicely inside of my bag. Finally, this is the BitBar 2 from Big Idea Design. I find myself reaching for this all the time, and it's genuinely one of my most used products. It's roughly the size of a pocket knife, but still has all the functionality of a full-size screwdriver. If you push this button up, you'll see the 8 bits hidden inside, which are magnetically held in place, and you can either just shove them straight into the 2 holes at the top of the handle, or you can use this extension shaft. This one is pretty standard, but there's also a corner slot if you need a bit more torque, which is a nice addition. I said this in a previous video, but the tolerances for this could be a bit tighter as this wobbles quite a lot, which is fine, just a bit annoying. And that is everything in my tech bag for 2025. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.